to Director Ronilda Arco, and she is an undersecretary from the Department of Education in the Philippines, and more specifically in charge of disaster risk reduction and management service. We're really happy to welcome you over here, Director Ronilda, and let me share your presentation as well. Thank you.
Is my presentation seen already?
Yes, we can see your presentation and we can hear you well. Thank you. Yeah.
On behalf of the Secretary of the Department of Education, a peaceful day to all of you. In 2013, Super Typhoon Haiyan brought havoc to the Philippines. 4 days ago, on November 1 this year, another super typhoon, international name Goni, struck the country, affecting thousands of individuals and families in this country. As you can see, this is a typhoon that came November 1, and for the education sector, this is actually the damage it has caused up to the moment. We are still gathering, of course, our data, and they are increasing every day. Damage to schools number to more than 1,000 already. And of course, as disasters come, class suspensions and schools used as evacuation centers are normal in the Philippines. We all know, according to the German Watch, that the country is actually fourth among the most affected by disasters. The vulnerability of the education sector can be seen here. We have what we call in the Department of Education the Enhanced Basic Education Information System. And yearly, the disaster-related data are actually sent by the schools to the central office. And you can see from here, we have actually more than 47,000 schools in the country. And you can see from here that 93% of our schools experience natural hazards. And of course, we also have human-induced hazards in the country. Here you can see that 84% of the schools do actually experience tropical cyclones. Our goal of providing quality, accessible, relevant, and liberating education had not changed even in the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, as our Secretary, Leonor Magtolis-Briones, always say, education must continue. It cannot wait. Even in the midst of crisis, whether it be a calamity, disaster, emergency, or even war. As to our contribution to climate change, the department actually created, and this I think is also cutting edge, as not many countries globally would have a dedicated office in the Department of Education that is in charge actually on the disaster risk reduction, climate change adaptation, and education in emergencies relating to armed conflict. Our office, my office, is mandated to institutionalize a culture of safety at all levels and ensure the learning continuity for learners even in times of disasters. Our vision is a safe and resilient schools, learners, personnel in the midst of natural and human-induced hazards. Our outcomes do include the protection from death and injury of our personnel and learners, learning continuity in the aftermath of a disaster, and of course, protection of education investments. We have adopted what is in the global framework, actually the Global Comprehensive School Safety Framework, but have merged it or combined it with our national framework, and that is having the 4 key thematic areas on prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, rehabilitation, and recovery. On the other hand, we have the 3 pillars of the Global Comprehensive School Safety Framework, that's safe learning facilities, and these are actually resilient buildings to hazards, building codes, okay, and even provision of temporary learning spaces and learning environments, of course, ensuring learning environments for our children. Pillar 2, which is the school disaster management, speaks of structures. We have a structure from the central office down to the subnational offices, down to the school levels. And also our contingency planning, our public service continuity planning, our drills in cases of hazards, and DRR in education or resilience education, which is actually integration in the curriculum, including training. Here, I would like to underscore our contribution to 13.1. We have a very robust operations and protocols from preparedness to rehabilitation and recovery. We have what we call the rapid assessment of damages report, which is actually activated within 72 hours in the aftermath, within 72 hours of a disaster. And this SMS reporting is directly from the schools to the central office, and immediately we're able to determine the damages that actually are incurred by our schools and even our personnel, including also non-infrastructure damages. And that's where we actually base our provisions of interventions. A number of them you can see from here, including the psychological first aid for our students, emergency school feeding, aside from, of course, replacement of damages, including replacement or reconstruction of classrooms. In terms of the integration in the curriculum, it is integrated in science, social studies, health, and values education across the grade levels from kinder to grade 12. In fact, we have a separate subject or course for our grades 10 and senior high school. We enable our children and youth through curricular activities, co-curricular activities. We have what we call as the Youth for Environment in Schools. This is an organization. And then we also have the vegetable gardening, solid waste management, and tree planting under our national greening program in the Philippines. We also enable voices and participation of children and youth. We have launched our so-called Green Bit initiative. This is an online environmental journalism training. This is to deepen the understanding of our children in terms of the basics of climate change, as well as what the professor, earlier speakers have already said, looking at ecosystems, the nexus of various disciplines as well, and being able to look at development, scrutinize development in the country through the lens of ecosystems approach. We also enable the voices and participation of our children and youth through encouraging them, allowing them to participate in national youth climate strikes, and also enabling them to do advocacy shows. We have done together with, as Professor Colleen has said, multiple voices matters. We are actually collaborating with artists in the country to help our youth come with their concepts and ideas on how to advocate using arts. And here they stage a national show actually in the country. Also, annually, we have our National Climate Change Conference. And here we actually encourage and have the avenue for youth, the platform for youth to come about with their with their projects that they can present, not only among themselves, but to other stakeholders where they can engage, get mentored by social entrepreneurs, product designers, scientists, and all the other stakeholders from the academe and the private sector. This is also to enable the youth to do problem solving that are relevant actually to the conditions of their communities. It is our hope that in enabling our youth, the participation, and they are one of the important voices of today's climate crisis, we hope that we do not only treat the youth, as we always say, the youth are the the hope of the future. But we say here, the Department of Education says that they're not only the hope of the future; they are here and now. When we have to treat them as here and now, and therefore capable of contributing and shaping the future that we desire, the future that they desire. Thank you very much for inviting us into this fruitful webinar, and we hope to be collaborating more in the efforts that actually showcases the capacities, the capabilities, and skills of our youth as change makers globally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Ronilda. Thank you so much for giving your insights. Thank you.